Hello, everybody. I am Lisa Lopez Griggs. I am your co-host today for the F.E.E.D, which is the Faces of Epilepsy Every Day. And I am so excited. I have to take a really deep breath and just try to zen, kind of get into heart center. Colleen, it is such a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you. So nice to be here.
Yeah, I am so grateful. I understand you have a lot of snow today. So you are not at your normal job, which is, I believe, as a behavioral specialist there at the school district.
Correct.
Which is so awesome because I got to read so much about your story. I got to see some of your interviews that you've already done. And you've been such an amazing advocate for epilepsy and for the warriors in the epilepsy community. And, I just want to get into it today because there's so much to unpack. How did this all start? The purple... Paul's Purple Warriors, the Seizure Safe Schools, how did this, are you an epileptic? Are you a caretaker of an epileptic? Because I'm sure for everybody that's not familiar with your work wants to know, how did this all start?
So my son was diagnosed when he was 12. And I guess when he was in school, we realized they really didn't know what to do. They told him to walk to the nurse after his seizure. So we thought, we really need to do something about this. He was in the local school in my town. And, I reached out to the town and I was like, hey, that can't happen. He can't be walking to the nurse. That's not a good plan. We need a plan. And then I started to do research, what schools knew, what they didn't know. And I met a few folks and we decided to work on it in New Jersey. I'd met a mom who did it in Kentucky and a woman, Sherry, who was working on it in Texas. So we decided to work on it in New Jersey and just make New Jersey safe. We have over 12,000 kids here who have epilepsy. So that was
that's kind of amazing. For those that are just watching in the audience first time, what Colleen Quinn is talking about is she's talking about seizure safe schools. There are a lot of states, and many of us are wondering why in this community as parents, as someone who lost my son to SUD-EP. Also, my son was diagnosed when he was 14. So very similar to your son Paul's age. And lived with epilepsy for a very short time, only 4 years, Colleen. But thank you for so many parents and so many in this community with over almost 500,000 students right now up to age 17 in the school system. And with virtually only half of the U.S. having laws in place like what you legislated for there in New Jersey. Right. Everybody's asking the question, why now? And why did it take so long for this not to be a federal law in place in all these other states?
Well, I don't know. I don't think you could really do it federally because each state legislates that on their own. However, I was pretty surprised. Well, actually, I wasn't really that surprised because I work in a public school with kids with disabilities. And some of those kids, in the autism community, the population of people with epilepsy is about 20% higher than the general population. So I had worked with a lot of children that had seizures, but when I was young, I worked residential with people that had epilepsy way back. So I always kind of knew what to do. I mean, what you do has changed over the years, but I was surprised myself that it's so many states that didn't know. I think we were the 5th state, but we passed it super quick. My son was diagnosed in February. And we started working on it, I would say, in the summer, and the session started in September, and we had a law by January.
Praise God. That's amazing. I want to go over the states right now that have enacted legislation for all the parents out there listening, and epileptics, those that are caretakers, and young people that might be listening. Alabama, Arkansas, Arizona, California, Colorado, Connecticut, Florida, Georgia, Illinois, Kentucky, this must make you happy, Louisiana, Maryland, Minnesota, Missouri, Mississippi, Nebraska, New Jersey. Thank you, Colleen Quinn. Nebraska. I'm sorry, I said New Jersey, Ohio, Oklahoma. Mike, our producer in the background, is probably happy about that. I should hear an applause back there, Mike. Our amazing producer. South Carolina, Texas, Utah, Virginia, and Washington State. Yet there's other states, like I know you mentioned on one of the interviews that you did, that North Carolina had not passed that law. And so we've got these states that haven't passed the law, which is Alaska, Delaware, Hawaii, Idaho, Indiana may be evolving, they said. Iowa.
Indiana had the law and it was repealed, actually.
Okay, and why was that? What was that all? Do you know?
I have no idea. They did a lot of rollbacks of a lot of different things out there, so I really don't know. I know they're trying to get it back.
Okay, so Indiana, so we'll check into that one. Iowa, legislation moving but not fully enacted. So Iowa's on there. Kansas does not have, these are states now we're going over, do not have a law in place for seizure safe schools. Kansas, Maine, Massachusetts, Michigan, Nevada, which hopefully I can help in Nevada. And maybe Monica Lopez can help in Nevada of reset. New Hampshire, New Mexico, North Carolina, North Dakota, Oregon, Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania has a law, but they're working on adding to it.
Okay, so yeah, it does say that has a general awareness, but not a full law. And then just a few more: Rhode Island, South Dakota, Tennessee, Vermont, West Virginia, Wisconsin, and Wyoming. So,
and no New York.
And New York does not. That's not on the list, but New York does not, is what you're saying.
Does not, right.
Okay. So what do you need from us? How can we help as a community to get these laws passed for our children, for our young people, for the younger generation? What can we do to help?
So of the 25, we started a Facebook group called National Epilepsy Advocates for Seizure Safe Schools. And that was me, the mom of the Lindsay Crunk Act from Kentucky, and Sherry Dudo of Texas, Sam's Law. And we got 6 states that we mentored through the process to do the laws that are on the books now. And then EF, Epilepsy Foundation, has done the other states. So the remaining states, if anyone wants to work on it, they can join our page or they could reach out to their EF, either way, because we need to get them all. I mean, it should be every state. There's no doubt about it. It should be every state. And all the laws vary slightly, so they're not all identical. They all have variation, but ultimately, for it to be like, let's just say a great law, you would want it to encompass a couple things. So you'd want it to have a seizure action plan for the students on file. You would want it to train as many people as possible. In the ideal world, you would want that training to be done every 2 years, because that's what the Epilepsy Alliance certification is, and that's what the Epilepsy Foundation certification is. And then you would also want to have rescue meds, in the delivery of rescue meds by designatees included in that as well. So there's several different components that should be in there to make a great version of the law. EF refers to it as model legislation. That's not always possible in every state. Sometimes you kind of got to do it the way that we did it, which is in parts. So we did it, then we went back and added the training. We could not get every 2 years. Our teachers union fought us in the state of New Jersey. So we got a minimum of every 5 years. And now we're working on rescue medications. So we did it in, several parts.
Would it be, I have 2 questions, follow-up questions on what you just said. Would it be good for the states that yet don't have these laws in place to try to connect with the teachers? Because I mean, you were in the school system and you had a son with epilepsy. If you're trying to pull on the heartstrings of someone that can really make a difference in the schools, should we try to connect with those that are already in the school system that might have a loved one with epilepsy? Is that a better route for us to get this done quicker?
I mean, it really depends on the state. So, some states have teachers unions that, are against lots of professional development and don't want things added. Other states don't have teachers unions. Some states have, they're training X amount of employees, whatever that may be. Other states are training all employees. So there's a lot of variation there, and it really depends on the state.
So one of the things, having a son who had epilepsy in school, he was on a 504 plan, an IUP. Can you explain to teachers or even parents what the difference is between that and something like Safe Seizure Schools? Because this is so different than someone just having a 504, IUP.
Right. Well, they're very different from each other. So a 504 is for someone who has a medical condition where they might not need, changes to the curriculum. They would need, support due to their medical condition. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And then an IEP is, I have epilepsy, say, but it's affected, my ability to do the curriculum. So in that case, it would be more IEP based. If it's had if the epilepsy has had an educational impact, then that student would more likely be an IEP candidate. Okay. If it hasn't had that much of an impact and it's a medical condition and you want to be aware of it, then it would be a 504. And they're different from each other because one is accommodations to an existing curriculum. That would be your 504. And an IEP is we're going to modify the curriculum for you. So they're very different, but it could be either way depending upon the educational impact.
Okay. So on the bills that you are helping to pass, the one Senate bill, I think you're working on 1237, and then the Assembly bill A2583. How do those play a part differently than the 504?
So I'm not sure which bills they are. The current bill that we're working on now in New Jersey is adding back to the original Paul's Law. So in 2020, we did Paul's Law. We got the seizure action plan that you just had up on the screen for folks. And then that's mandated that everyone has access and can see it, and all students with epilepsy will have that. And then we went back and added the teacher training component at a minimum of every 5 years. And now we're going back to add, designatees to be able to give rescue medication. So schools are different from state to state. So in New Jersey, for example, every school has a school nurse. That's not the case across the country. So in New Jersey, our kids are at risk at after school activities because nurses might not be available. We have a huge nursing shortage here, and I think it's probably across the country, to be honest. But so there's a nursing shortage. So if our kids want to go to an extracurricular activity or a dance or play a sport, no one is allowed to give rescue medication in the state of New Jersey. So that's what we're trying to change here, that designatees can be trained to be able to attend those functions and deliver rescue medication as part, but it all goes back to falling under Paul's Law that we did in 2020.
Okay, so it sounds like the medication is a big piece. When the teachers are trained, do you think it's as important? And maybe a silly question to ask, but my son depended on a lot of his peers, that were close to him to know that he had epilepsy. It wasn't something that our family really talked about. He was on his medication. He tried to, just kind of deal with it. So it wasn't like he walked around telling everybody he had epilepsy. Do you think it's as important for students to be educated as well? And is that part of this legislation?
So I do think it's important, and I think it's important for a couple different reasons. So, one, because we need to keep our kids with epilepsy safe. They're with their peers a lot, but I also feel like the most important part is to decrease the stigma that surrounds epilepsy, right?
Yeah,
And the
of
fear.
course.
And I feel like
Mhm.
people generally, if they're trained, even whether they're kids or they're adults, they're less fearful. So I do
Mhm.
think it's important. And it is in New Jersey part of our legislation. And the training would be, on grade level, once in elementary school, once in middle school, and then again in high school. And obviously the training curriculum would match the grade level. You're not going to, train the little kids in, using rescue medicine or anything like that.
Right.
But you're going to train according to the grade level information about epilepsy. So yeah, I do think it's important. And for all the reasons that you said, I mean, when Paul was young, uh, I trained all of his friends because,
Mhm.
and they were all willing to learn
Yeah.
and they've responded. So they know what to do and they feel less fearful and he feels less fearful. So it all around is beneficial to everybody, really.
Yeah. How big is CPR in that process as well? Is that something that's in that bill or not really?
No, so in well, there's rescue medication bills that are a part of seizure safe schools in some
Mhm.
of those 25 states. um Many of them may have a CPR component, many of
Mhm.
them don't. In
Okay.
our case, in New Jersey, we met with our school nurses, and it is in the bill that our designatees will also be CPR trained.
Yeah, I feel like this would just give parents such reassurance. I know you've used that word before, reassurance, and just, calming towards students and towards, these young people. Because what we find is we're doing the podcast and the feed, and we're in all these communities talking to epileptics and those that are not epileptics, is this stigma that you're talking about, the shame that's attached to that. And it's because there's no education or very little education and awareness around seizure safety. In other words, if people don't understand what to do in a seizure, they run away from it because they have no education that they need to stay with that person and actually put them on their side and, make sure that their head is protected. And as you said before, not put anything in their mouth, just the different things. I don't know, Mike, maybe as our producer can put back up that screen, because I think that was really, really good. What is there a place where people can go and read this bill that you're kind of championing across the US right now?
Well, yeah. So you could go to the New Jersey website and read S12, what is it? S1228. And then
Okay.
that will show you back to the original Paul's Law. That kind of will lead back to the original Paul's Law.
Have you ever seen anybody that or have you ever heard that this law has made a difference, since you've put it into place?
Yes, we
That's kind of an emotional question for me.
yeah, yeah, it's
That's kind of an emotional question for me, honestly, because I always feel that people that have seizures should never be left alone. And you and I are both moms of epileptics. And 30 seconds, being a mom to an epileptic, we certainly know what 30 seconds, how long that is.
right.
Here's the law right now. Our producer pulled it up here. Mike pulled it up here. And I think he also had another seizure safety in schools flyer that you had up that looked really, really amazing. I'd love to make sure we get that posted in our group. So my question was kind of getting me emotional, but do you have a story about anybody that's, that had some help because of this law in place?
Not a specific story that necessarily jumps out. I have gotten a lot of emails and text messages and Facebook Messenger, thank you. And not only from moms, from, teachers across the state saying thank you. We appreciate this training. It's functional. We'll use it. We're glad to have it. So the teachers have been very supportive. Our struggle was with, the teachers union, to be honest, not
Right.
the actual teachers. They want the knowledge.
Yeah.
So,
Wow, that's amazing. Here it is. It's the Seizure Action Plan, week February 9th through the 16th, 2026, educating patients, healthcare providers, schools, and the broader community about the importance of Seizure Action Plan is essential. Can you tell us about this?
so the Seizure Action Plan, EF has a version of this, the Epilepsy Foundation, the Epilepsy Alliance has a version of this. I think that actually belongs to Defeating Epilepsy. I'm not sure because the print's so small.
Oh, it's okay.
No, that's all right. But yeah, so there's several good versions of the Seizure Action Plan out there, and that is kind of the information that needs to be in the schools so people know how to respond specifically for each individual student. That's more the specifics of how to respond, where the training provided by the Epilepsy Foundation for school employees is the general training that people will take, or the training provided by the Epilepsy Alliance America, is the general training that the people will take. But as far as what's provided to the school from the patient or the family and their doctor, it would be directly the Seizure Action Plan.
Okay, so that's the plan they put in place to the teachers.
Right, specifically for their child.
Okay. Why do you think the teachers' unions, I know we're going to get dicey here for a minute. Why do you think the teachers' unions are so resistant to this?
I don't know that that's been the case in any other state. I just know that was the case for us. And I just think, in all fairness, teachers do have a lot of professional development on their plate. And I think when these decisions are made by higher ups, way higher ups in the union, that maybe they're not consulting with the teachers on what they would like to be trained on before. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. I have no rationale for that, because any teacher I know wanted to be trained, and people were very excited, and we've gotten nothing but positive feedback in our state from both people who've taken the Alliance training, people who've taken the foundation training, nothing but positive feedback. So from the teachers. So I really can't answer that.
Yeah. When I'm imagining that parents right now that have young people in elementary, middle school, and high school are thinking to themselves, I can't just march into the school right now and just, hey, we need a plan, they want to be a little bit more intentional. I know you said that they can reach out to you, of course, and you can help them to get this laws passed in their state. Generally, how long does that take? I mean, what should a parent prepare for if they want to get involved in some sort of advocacy? Do they need a group of people? I mean, I know you had your best friend who is also Colleen, which is so awesome. My best friend's the same name as me too. She's Lisa Michelle. I'm Lisa Michelle.
That's funny, isn't it?
I know.
Yeah, it's funny how that works out. I think there's numbers are good, right? If you have people to come and help testify, other moms, teachers, people who have epilepsy, who are teachers. That was the case in Texas. My friend Sherry, who worked on it there, she has epilepsy herself. She did it to protect the kids, but it also protected her as well. Because she was, well, not her, because she was a former teacher probably when it passed. But yeah, I mean, so it's necessary in all 50 states. And it shouldn't be this hard. And as for how long, that's a rough question as well. I mean, we, September, October, November, December, 4 months. I mean, we were lucky. And there's other.
That seems so fast.
Yeah, it was really fast. I think we were probably.
Colleen, I want to help get it passed here in Nevada. So I'm stepping up to the plate, Michael Hall. You just heard it first right here. Lisa Lopez Griggs is going to try to help get this passed here in Nevada. And I think that's why I was asking the questions about, like, do you kind of befriend somebody, that's a teacher, and then kind of go that route of somebody that may have an epileptic that they love that's here in Nevada, that's part of the school system here.
Yeah, I actually had a mom from Nevada reach out to me who's
Mhm.
interested, so I think that's great.
Yeah,
And she happens to be a nurse, which I think is also great.
perfect.
So,
Mhm.
yeah. So I think that, a nurse is great, a teacher
Mhm.
would be great as well, or just somebody who's determined to make a difference.
Mhm.
It really isn't all that hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, look, if I could do it, I think anybody could do it, you
Well,
know?
it's so funny because I think you're kind of like, oh my gosh,
No,
like there's Colleen Quinn,
no.
like roll out the red carpet, I mean, this is like huge. I mean, it's not every day that people are stepping up to the plate and saying, hey, you know what? We need to pass a law. How did it feel after it went through? How did that make you feel?
It felt really nice, but then it also led me to say, "Oh no, I got to do something for the adults now. What am I going to do for them?" Oh,
Oh my goodness.
so then we passed a seizure safe sign bill in New Jersey to have signs on the New Jersey State website, uh,
Wow.
saying like trust. We use trust because that's what Epilepsy Services of New Jersey, that's their poster, and we think it's great. Turn the person on their side, remove objects under their head, put something soft, stay with the person, time the seizure.
Yes.
So we love their
Yes.
poster, so we
Love it.
like recommended that. But so that was my way to, like, I felt guilty, like we got to do something for adults
Mhm.
now, not just the kids. So that's the
So
last. That
so
was
you didn't really get to like even take a minute and just be like, oh my gosh, like just breathe. I mean, you did it so quickly, Colleen. I mean, God bless you. Like, this is amazing. I really want to acknowledge that in you and just say from all of us here, at Faces of Epilepsy and the F.E.E.D and our whole community of epileptics, which we've kind of become a family here, that, this is really a big deal. This is not something that you just kind of throw under the rug. I mean, this is a really big deal and you're really making a difference, and we're very proud of you. We're
Oh,
very, very
thank
proud of you, and we want to help you. We want to help get this message out to more parents so that we can get more states on board with this. Is it relatively easy once somebody does partner up with you to kind of, you have, like you said, that you have like a almost like a cookie cutter or like a format that they can kind of follow, and you kind of guide them and support them and stuff, so they're not really out on their own writing laws, right?
No, 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 no. And we didn't write the law either. I mean, that's what they have an office of legislature for. We get to have some input, but
Yeah.
um no, so Sherry and I from Texas who did Sam's Law, so we basically meet with whoever's interested, tell them how to begin to get started, what that process looks like, the advocacy step by step by step, and then we just kind of walk them through how to do it and what's going to be involved, what it's going to look like, and help them to connect and find other people in their state that will support them. And again, there's alliances in some states that can help as well. There's other foundations that, are not alliances and not foundations that can help as
Mhm.
well. So, yeah, you just need to find somebody who wants to make a difference. Like I said, it's
Yeah.
back to your question about how long does it take? Like, we frankly, I feel like we got really lucky, to be honest.
Yeah.
Some states have been at it for years because other states have had holdups with the nurses union or
Mhm.
whatever. So every state is different. You can't really predict like if there will be any difficulties and what those difficulties will be
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
necessary.
How is Paul's health now? Being diagnosed at 12, how is he now? Is his seizures under control?
No, no, they're not.
Mm.
So he in the beginning he did really well. He was on one medication and it worked for about a year and 3 months or 4 months, and then
Mhm.
it stopped working. And then that
Wow.
was a really, really rough, long ride.
Mm.
And then he found another medicine. We found another medicine, and he had a great run with that medicine. 2 years and 4 months, almost 5 months, and then
Wow.
and now that's like not really working as well anymore. Can't say it's not working at all because that's not really true. It's not working as well as it once was. Let's just say that. Like he's having seizures again. I mean, he was seizure free for 2 years and 4 months.
Yeah, that's a long time. My son never went that long without a seizure. It was pretty much every 4 weeks that he was having a grand mal. And then he was having grand mals like back to back breakthrough seizures. And he was on 3,000 milligrams of Depakote a day. So he was on a lot of medications and still having the seizures. And there's so much more that I know now that I wish I would have known then, because I would have done so many things differently. But that's, again, part of the journey that we're all on together to help bring this awareness and advocacy and keep championing, new ways of seeing things, right? Through diet or through, like what you're saying, with medication. Does he drive, Paul?
No, he doesn't drive. He was too young when he was seizure free for that year and 3 months. And then we tried I think 8 different combinations of medicine.
Wow.
And the eighth or ninth, I forget, was when he was seizure free for 2 years and 4 months. And his thing was, I want to go at least double the amount of time that I went last time. And he never got there. So, and now he says he doesn't want to drive because he doesn't want to take the chance to hurt anyone.
Yeah.
And I respect that. He Ubers and he lifts everywhere. He's Ubering, lifting all the time. So
yeah. Wow. That's kind of cool in a sense. You have your own driver, you have,
right.
I think
or he has me. Maybe I'm his driver.
Or he has mom, right?
Yeah. And he's got some friends that drive, which is good.
Yeah, that makes a big difference. I always said, God, you know what? I just don't understand. When you send a mom home from the hospital, every mom should just get a limo, because nobody's ever arguing about sitting in the front. Everybody always wants to be in the back. So just, send us all home with limos next go around. But so I want to shift gears for a second. As a mom, do you ever feel a bit insecure with his health? I always felt very insecure with my son, meaning that I wasn't sure if he was going to have a long quality of life. Do you ever think about that, or do you stay pretty steady and strong and faith-filled?
I try to stay in the moment that I'm in with him.
Yeah.
So when he's seizure free, I try to lighten up a little bit and give him a little more space and try to, just stay in the moment with him. And then when he's in a rougher period, I'm probably a little more like, hey, did you take your medicine? I don't see the container empty around here. Or, hey, is your rescue med in your bag? I'm probably a little more. And he's like, I got it. You taught me this at 12. I'm like, I know, but so yeah, I think it kind of depends where we're at. And, right now we're in the process of, being in a clinical trial. So,
oh, really?
Trying to get into a clinical trial, should I say. We're not approved yet, but yeah. So he has a camera in his room. He's not thrilled about that, but you got to see what you're going to capture. So.
Yeah. And then what about is he a candidate for brain surgery or? No. Okay. Okay. But he doesn't have a drug resistant epilepsy.
Yes, he does.
Oh, he does have drug resistant epilepsy. Mm-hmm. How did you find that out? Was that did his neurologist or?
So, yeah, that's a good question. Well, I mean, they typically say after 2 failed medications, it's drug resistant epilepsy. So,
okay.
We had 9 different combinations of stuff. So,
right. So it kind of just assumed that that's what it was. And maybe I can assume that with my son.
Yeah.
There's a lot of parents, Colleen, that don't know about SUDEP.
Right.
I talked to a lot of parents that have lost their children to epilepsy. Actually, one not far from you, right in Philadelphia, Kathleen. and just lost her son this last year to epilepsy. He was young, under 18. And I'm wondering why a lot of parents don't know about setup. Just because you're in so many of these circles with parents and the schools and different things. Do people just not want to talk about it? Do they just not want to face that reality?
That's a really good question. And I honestly don't know the answer to that, because our first epileptologist, Paul, asked her, can I die from this? And she said no. And then I remember one time when he had like a 5 seizure cluster, I thought to myself, man, she said that to him, but I think I found out that could happen by Googling, or when Cameron Boyce passed away.
Right. Yes.
Because Paul was pretty newly diagnosed then. I think it was like within the first year. But
yeah.
I honestly don't know. I know that PAMI, Partners Against Mortality and Epilepsy, they're trying to do a lot of great work around this. They are doing a lot of great work around this. Danny Tidd also does a lot of great work around this, trying to, disseminate this information and prevention with seizure watches. Same thing with the Chelsea Hutchinson Foundation. They do a lot with seizure watches to families for prevention. Yeah, it's sad. And I then I don't think the numbers are right either, right? Because the numbers for SUDEP, I believe, are higher. I believe
very high. It's 1 in 1,000. So
yeah, I think it's higher than what they say, because it depends how it's recorded. Right.
Exactly. So if someone has epilepsy and they pass away of a seizure, it's automatically set up, right? So if they're epileptic and then they pass away, generally it's just set up on the death certificate.
Not necessarily true.
Ah, interesting. Okay, I stand corrected. I did not know that. So because there's so many people that don't have epilepsy, but yet die of a seizure. So what I'm saying is that the numbers are actually very, very high. So then what is the difference between, so are you saying that the numbers should actually be higher? Because I still think 1 in 1,000 is really high. But
I don't think the numbers are accurate, because I don't know that they're always recorded correctly, right? Because you just don't know that that's the case. I mean, really, PAMI, again, is doing a lot of work around trying to get correct numbers and having it reported correctly. So
right. So it's not always put on the death certificate. You're saying if the person has epilepsy is what you're saying. Like on my son's, it just said set up and we didn't even know what that was. And there's a lot of parents around me that have lost children that say they didn't know what set up was, and that's what it said on the death certificate. But there's a lot of people that have seizures, but they're not diagnosed with epilepsy, but they still pass away of a seizure. So is that the numbers that you're talking about? The disparity between—
it could be those. Yeah, it could be those numbers. Absolutely. Sure.
Yeah. And I think that's why this is so serious, what you're doing. I think it's huge what you're doing. And we just love you so much here at the F.E.E.D. I thank God for you so much that you were willing to do this interview with us. I think we got so much good information. Is there anything that you would want to share that we haven't covered? I know that you also do this major surfing thing, which is kind of cool too, right? Because I remember you kind of telling me about it, and then I asked Paul about it if he's going to talk about the surfing thing. But if there's anything that you want that we haven't covered, maybe you could mention the surfing camp that you do. That's kind of cool.
So we partner with Epilepsy Services of New Jersey to do a surf camp, because one of the things Paul said to me is, oh, well, what about the ocean? What about, going out on a surfboard? Like, I'm not going to be able to do these things. And I'm thinking, never asked to surf before. Like, what do you mean?
Now all of a sudden you have epilepsy and you want to surf?
So yeah, funny. But
right.
Yeah. So we so we've run it for, this was our 5th year. This will be our 6th year. We do it with Epilepsy Services of New Jersey. My boss, her family is a bunch of surfers, and she volunteers her time. My boss at my real job at the school. And yeah, it's a great event. It's a great event. The kids love it. It's this year, it'll be July 28th. So if anyone's listening and their kids want to surf, we take kids from 10 to up to 18. So it's a lot of fun. And we give them all a one-to-one surf instructor. So because water and epilepsy is dangerous, right? Very, so they have a one-to-one surf instructor. We have an ambulance on the beach in case someone were to have a seizure. So we have a lot of safeguards put in place for that event.
Oh my gosh, that sounds amazing. Yeah.
And
I love that.
The only other thing I would say is we have been working with Senator Booker and Congressman Norcross on federal epilepsy legislation. And that's for grant programs that the states can apply for to be able to, implement more things that will help people with epilepsy in the states as far as education within schools and help foundations to deliver services. So, we're working on that bill very hard, and we'll see. We shall see.
Oh, that's awesome.
If anyone wants to reach out to their federal senator or their congressman and help with that, we'll take all the help we can get on that, because federal advocacy is a lot harder than state advocacy.
Oh my goodness gracious. So all the state, then we think we could pretty much have that covered. As long as we get the volunteers and the advocacy from the different states, we're going to push them in your direction. And then as far as the funding, are you concerned about funding at all? Just because the funding is so limited. I mean, epilepsy only gets $240 million in research funding a year, comparable to, Alzheimer's and dementia that's getting $4 billion almost a year in research. And yet that community is only, I think it's around the same size as the epilepsy community. So it's not like, that's a societal burden when you think about it. And as far as I'm concerned, gross neglect with regard to the epilepsy community. Are you concerned about that at all? Do you ever think about that with regard to funding and research?
I am concerned. I think Cure does a fabulous job with research. I mean, they're a great organization, but of course, obviously the epilepsy community could use more funds. Many people have epilepsy, 3.5 million people. Obviously they could use funds. You're talking like 456,000 of them are kids. So the epilepsy community does deserve to have better funding, no doubt about it. But as far as the legislation stuff, you can do that for free.
Yeah. Amen. Did you hear that, everybody? You can do the legislation for free. So if you have one last thing to say to parents, teachers, legislators, policymakers, what would that be?
Well, that's a hard one. I think I would just say not to give up hope. Not to give up hope.
Amen. Amen. That one day we're going to find a cure for this thing. We're going to find a cure. Colleen Quinn, thank you so very much.
Thank
you so much from Paul's Purple Warriors and Seizure Safe Schools. We love you. God bless everybody on the feed. And don't forget to connect with Colleen Quinn. She's on Facebook. They have a great community on Facebook. We'll make sure that we post all her handles in the content as we post this show on Wednesday. So God bless everybody. We love you. Mwah.
Thank you again.